He had a deal, and he didn't put out an album in 4 years. And with his deal, he literally figured out how to get 20 million from Lucian Grange, drop his deal, figure out how to make the funds apply to a whole nother album, give him a bullshit album, get out his deal all in one round. Do you know how embarrassed the record industry was? That man figured out how to finesse the record industry, and people don't talk about that. That it took that man 2 years to do that.
Everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I am going to be discussing the topic of why the music industry and record labels cannot stand Frank Ocean. I'm specifically going to be elaborating on the situation where he outsmarted the label that he was assigned to, and he's become the blueprint for many aspiring artists who want to go independent. The record labels were pissed once he pulled off this scheme because it proved to many other artists that they're capable of making it big without the labels and the music gatekeepers behind them. Frank Ocean is a very popular artist who many people know as the guy who puts you in your feelings with any masterpiece he releases.
I would never cry to a Frank Ocean song, let's be honest. I am a would you?
He's been in the industry for as long as you can imagine, before he became a household name to the younger generation. And Frank has worked with so many A-list artists, and he was a ghostwriter for a lot of people like John Legend, Beyonce, Justin Bieber, the list goes on. Another thing people admire about Frank is how private he is, and he's just very mysterious, and he moves in silence when he's working on his music. And he doesn't really appear on interviews, and he's only made a few red carpet appearances. He rarely attends award shows, doesn't even have music videos, but just recently he did attend Coachella. But other than that, it seems like he doesn't really leave his little bubble. I totally understand and respect that about him though. Overall, it seems like he doesn't involve himself in anything publicly unless it's his music we are talking about. Frank has been around since the early 2000s though. He was in Odd Future in 2007 where he became really close with Tyler the Creator, and he even helped Tyler co-write some of his future songs in his Flower Boy album. Fast forward a bit, he meets Tricky Stewart, a very well-known producer and record executive in the music industry, and he's gonna be a pretty important part of this story. He's worked with huge artists before like Rihanna, Mariah Carey, Beyonce, and Katy Perry. And Tricky Stewart decided to sign Frank Ocean right away on the spot because he loved the material that he was working on. So in 2009, Frank Ocean was recruited and officially signed with the record label Def Jam Recordings, who are known for previously signing huge artists like Rihanna, Justin Bieber, and currently Coco Jones. This was Frank's first label deal, and he had no prior labels or experience on his resume besides the projects that he's worked on independently. He signed a 2-album contract with the label, and Tricky was meant to mentor him and help him through his journey with Def Jam. And Tricky claims in his 2016 interview with Fader magazine that he was trying his best to get the other executives to respect Frank like he did. They basically told him that signing him was a bad idea and that he wasn't going to be bringing any money like the rest of their clients. All of the clients at the time were A-list artists at the peak of their careers, and pop music was the most marketable and easiest to sell to consumers. Frank's genre of music doesn't necessarily fit the mainstream pop formula, which eventually affected his relationship with Tricky and the label. They didn't believe in him enough to invest in him because at the end of the day, it is the label's job to promote and push their products out, and they won't be making any money if they can't support their artists commercially. So sadly, Frank wasn't getting any support. So Tricky states, at the end of the day, it messed up me and Frank's relationship because I couldn't give him what I told him I would deliver. He was looking at it going, the label is not supporting me, and just like any other young kid, he wanted to feel wanted and needed. That wasn't a service that Def Jam was willing to provide at the time. So according to Tricky, Frank independently released his first mixtape, Nostalgia Ultra, in 2011 out of a survival instinct. He wanted to do something that would gain the attention of the label and to also create more buzz around his name and brand. And now, all of a sudden, Def Jam notices all the buzz around Frank's name and they decided to start appreciating him as their artist. They saw that he was a potential moneymaker with all the people that loved his mixtape, and they actually got mad at Tricky for the release of the mixtape without their knowledge, especially because it did so well. They breached his contract with them and basically stole Frank from him, even though he was signed to his imprint, which meant that they couldn't do anything with Frank without Tricky's consent. But they didn't care, and they decided to back him up for Frank's debut album, Channel Orange, which was released in 2012, and that had no involvement from Tricky. Channel Orange did so well that it did hit the top of almost every Billboard chart. It peaked number 2 on US Billboard 200 and number 1 in the US top R&B and hip-hop charts. And it also won a Grammy for Best Urban Contemporary Album in 2013. Channel Orange was just one out of the 2 albums for his contract with Def Jam. He still wasn't done yet with the label, so they were obligating him one more. Now, this is when Frank started to feel a little distant from them. He felt like there was no productive or genuine relationship between the 2 parties, and that they were only using him. But honestly, that's just how things work with record labels. It took Frank 4 years to release his next quote-unquote album, and I say quotations because he didn't even consider this a real album. Because he was obligated to release one more until his contract was over, Frank came up with a master plan and decided to basically BS the last album and trick the label into thinking that it was a real project that he put his all into. And he decided to release an album that wasn't marketable for radio plays or anything. Endless, Frank's visual album, was released in 2016 under Def Jam, and that officially made him 2 out of 2 albums and contractually free from Def Jam. After a long 7 years with the label, Frank stated in an old interview that the visual album was symbolic of his final move in a chess game with Def Jam. Now this is the moment where Frank completely outsmarts Def Jam and beats the entire record label system that prevents any artist from making money. The next day, legit right after Endless dropped, Frank drops his masterpiece Blonde under his own newfounded label, Boys Don't Cry. The 2 albums are just 1 day apart, and he also signed a deal with Apple Music to receive a $20 million payout if he let them release it exclusively on their platform. So within the first week of Blonde, he made $1 million from that, and as of today, it was projected that he made $2 million from it, or a little bit over that. He was able to pay back Def Jam the $2 million that he owed to them, which allowed him to retain all the rights for all his music produced under them, and he also got to walk away with his $20 million. Def Jam was definitely pissed because they had no knowledge that he was going to do this, nor did they have any knowledge that Blonde existed. And you guys remember Tricky? He admitted later that the label was being treated how they treated Frank, and at the end of the day, they created a monster they couldn't control. Tricky and Frank have a cordial relationship now, and Tricky openly admits that the label mistreated Frank and pushed him to do what he did. Frank is now releasing music independently under his own label, but we haven't gotten anything from him since 2016. But that's very much like him to drop a masterpiece and then disappear for a while. His 7-year-long battle with the record label industry should be talked about more because so many young aspiring artists go into the music industry, sometimes a little naive and hopeful, thinking that they're gonna make it big and come out living lavishly. In reality, if record labels don't see potential to make money out of you, they will not respect you and they will not hesitate to drop you. And if you are valuable to them, they essentially own you because they control your brand image and everything that you promote. This is exactly what they did to Frank Ocean because they didn't see the potential in him at first because his music was not formulaic and considered mainstream. And he has more unique and artistic approaches because he genuinely enjoys making deep, meaningful music that people can remember forever. He doesn't just make music to make a quick hit or a buck. And that's probably why these labels were so salty and pressed that he played them because they couldn't make money off of Blonde, which to this day is still critically acclaimed as one of the best albums in contemporary music, and they couldn't control him and his every action. A lot of these labels want somebody that they can control because they want to make them their little industry plant. If you are an aspiring artist, please look into Frank's story and journey with the record label because it is an important story that not a lot of people discuss because I don't think they want people to find out these secrets and these little loopholes. Many people know of the situation between him and the record labels, but Not many people know the details and what went down. He actually carefully planned this exit with Def Jam for 2 years, and he had told some of his closest friends what he was going to do, but he stated in an interview that most of them didn't even believe that it could work. And if that isn't enough inspiration to listen to yourself and not what others believe is best for you, then I don't know what is. There are other artists with similar experiences with record labels, so you can look into their stories as well, but Frank was probably one of the first people that I heard had outsmarted the record label system. It is really the artist and individual's decision at the end of the day if they would like to sign to a label, and you can also make the decision to go the independent route and support yourself. It might be a little bit difficult, but it is not impossible. The thing is, this situation really emphasizes the importance of reading your contracts, and if you have the money, to get a business lawyer or an entertainment lawyer to help you dissect those contracts, to know what you're getting yourself into when you sign these business deals with these labels. They may be promising to deliver all these benefits to you, but it's a really shady business deal if you read into it. Now, Frank rarely ever does interviews or public appearances, so I will bless you guys with some rare interviews I found of him giving advice to fans and other artists. One with W Magazine and another with Gay Letter. Feel free to read them and learn more about him as a person and an artist, so I'll leave those links down below. That's all I have for today's video. I really love and appreciate Frank Ocean so much as an artist, so this was really fun for me to deep dive into. Please let me know your thoughts and opinions on this video below, and thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.